Diogenes stood in front of a brothel shouting, "A beautiful prostitute is like poisoned honey. A beautiful prostitute is like poisoned honey." The men entering the house threw him 1 or 2 coins to make him be quiet. Eventually, Diogenes had collected enough money and he also entered the brothel. Diogenes was asked why he always begged. "To teach people," Diogenes replied. "Oh yes. And what do you teach them?" they asked with disdain. "Generosity," he answered. Plato considered Diogenes' behavior as that of a street dog, unfit for someone who called himself a philosopher. "You truly live up to your name," Plato told him disapprovingly. "By the gods, you are right for once, Plato," Diogenes responded. And baring his teeth added, "But at least I have sunk my teeth into philosophy." Diogenes of Sinope, also known as Diogenes the Cynic, was a philosopher and notable figure in ancient Greece. Born in 412 BC in Sinope, a Greek colony on the coast of the Black Sea, Diogenes challenged social conventions and became one of the most intriguing and controversial philosophers of his time. His lifestyle and teachings defied established norms. His anecdotes and provocations left an indelible mark on the history of philosophical thought. He was known for his disdain for material comforts, living in poverty and rejecting conventional norms. He adopted an ascetic way of life, carrying only the essentials and getting rid of anything unnecessary. It is said he lived in a barrel. His rejection of social rules and his pursuit of authenticity made him the founding father of Cynicism. Diogenes challenged powerful and influential figures, ridiculed famous philosophers like Plato, and rejected established customs. Through his actions and words, he questioned ideas about virtue, happiness, and the true purpose of life. His teachings, though provocative, invite reflection and push us to question our beliefs and values. In winter, Diogenes would walk barefoot on the snow. In summer, he would roll in hot sand. He did this to toughen himself against discomfort. "But aren't you exaggerating a bit?" a disciple asked. "Of course," Diogenes replied. "I am like a choir conductor who has to sing louder than the others to get the right note." Diogenes was collecting figs when a man approached him. "Don't touch this fruit," he warned. "A man hanged himself from this tree yesterday." In response, Diogenes sank his teeth into a fig, sucking it as if drawing poison from a wound. "Thus I purify the tree," he said, and walked away. Diogenes was once asked, "What is the difference between life and death?" "None," he replied. "Then why do you remain alive?" "Because there is no difference." Often when begging, people passing by would spit on him. Diogenes would ignore this and wipe his face with his sleeve. When mocked for his passive behavior he said, "If men endure getting wet by the sea to catch a mere sardine, shouldn't I endure being splashed to get my dinner?" A provocator in the crowd yelled, "My mind is not made for philosophy." "Why bother living then?" "If living rightly doesn't bother you," Diogenes replied. Foreigners in Athens once asked him to point out the great philosopher, referring to Plato. Diogenes looked around, led them to an empty area, and gesturing to the empty air said, "I present to you the great philosopher Plato." Very few of his disciples had the endurance to become cynics. One disciple left but begged Diogenes to give him a book. "You are foolish," Diogenes said. "You would not paint figs instead of eating real figs. And yet you overlook the true practice of wisdom and settle for what is merely written." Diogenes was once asked why he accepted money from people. "To show them how they should spend their money," he replied. On one occasion, he was about to enter the theater just as everyone else was leaving. When asked why, he said, "Opposition has been my way of being. It is what I have done all my life." Someone asked him, "What do you attribute your great poverty to?" "To much work," he answered. "And what advice can you offer the rich?" "Avoid all the good things in life." "Why?" "Because money costs too much. A rich man is poorer than a poor man." "How can that be?" "Because poverty is the only thing money cannot buy." A famous athlete entered the city after a victorious game, carried high above the crowd. He couldn't take his eyes off the beautiful women staring at him. "Look at our brave victor," Diogenes said. "Captured by every girl he sees." One day, Diogenes walked in the marketplace with a lit lantern in broad daylight. People stared and asked what he was doing. "I am searching for an honest man," he said. He looked at each person with a piercing stare, sighed, and turned away. "I called for men," he muttered in disgust. Once, in the middle of a serious conversation, Diogenes realized nobody was listening. So he started whistling and dancing. People immediately gathered around him. He stopped and said, "Fools! You ignore wisdom, but rush to watch a foolish spectacle." Diogenes was knee-deep in a stream washing vegetables when Plato approached. Plato said, "If you knew how to court kings, you wouldn't have to wash vegetables." Diogenes responded, "If you knew how to wash vegetables, you wouldn't have to court kings." While passing a stream, Diogenes saw a child drinking water with his hands. "A child has surpassed me in simplicity," he said, throwing away his cup. A young man asked, "Should I get married?" "Marriage is too soon for a young man," Diogenes replied. "Then should I wait until I am old?" "Oh no, marriage is too late for an old man." "I love the girl," the young man said. "Love is a luxury no one can afford," Diogenes replied. "It is for those who have nothing better to do." So what should we be doing? Seeking freedom. And you cannot be free with a wife and children. But having a family is nice. That is the problem. Freedom would be easy if the prison were not so sweet. So being free means being alone. We enter the world alone and die alone. Why in life should we be less alone? So living is terrible. Not living. Living in chains. Someone once asked him, "How does a wise man look?" Diogenes immediately straightened his back and stroked his beard. When asked about his worst nightmare, Diogenes said, "Waking up and finding myself living in a palace while everyone else lives in barrels." Diogenes once walked backward through the agora. People laughed and followed him. He stopped and said, "You laugh at me for walking backward a little, while all of you walk through life upside down." He added, "Can you change your way of living as easily as this?" He turned around and walked normally, leaving the crowd silent. Looking back, we find in Diogenes a voice that challenges us to be authentic, to question society, and to seek inner freedom. His legacy inspires thinkers, rebels, and dreamers even today. He was the man who lived in a barrel and defied the world with his philosophy. May his spirit of rebellion and search for truth inspire us to question, to think, and to live authentically in our own times. Thank you for joining this journey through the life and philosophy of Diogenes the Cynic. May his defiant spirit and quest for truth guide us in our own search for meaning and authenticity.